Hello everybody, Brad Ellis here, and today I'm here to talk to you about a very special game, which is Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. Now, with Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater coming up, I thought it would be a perfect time to revisit this game because it's been over 20 years since I played it. So, Metal Gear Solid 2, it's just like when I think back on it, before I replayed it, my impressions of the game were always, it's good, but it's definitely my least favorite Metal Gear out of the mainline entries, except maybe 5. You guys know I'm not a huge fan of 5, which I will revisit someday in the future as well. But with Metal Gear, there's a lot of things I just think back. I'm like, yeah, I don't really know about that, particularly Raiden being the main character instead of Snake. Those are big shoes to fill. But I replayed the game, so let's go over it.
This is Snake. Do you read me, Otacon?
Loud and clear, Snake.
Kept you waiting, huh?
Alright, so Metal Gear Solid 2 picks up 2 years after the events of Shadow Moses. The game begins with you playing as Snake, and you infiltrate a bunker that's holding a new Metal Gear prototype called Metal Gear Ray. And Snake is here with Otacon to expose the weapon and kind of let the world know what's going on here. Once you're on the tanker though, with Snake, a bunch of Russian mercenaries come over here and cause chaos on the boat. And Ocelot shows up and takes the Metal Gear Ray and sinks the ship, and Snake is presumed dead. Flash forward 2 years, and we're playing as a brand new character now, Raiden. And he is sent to the Big Shell, which is kind of like a giant oil rig looking thing that's supposed to clean up, I believe, environmental disasters and stuff like that. But Raiden is sent here to rescue some hostages and the president. And here's where the game begins. This was such a insane moment for me. And I remember at the time, because I'm old, I remember when this game came out, everyone was hyped to play as Snake. Solid Snake, the man, the legend. We're all stoked. You do the tanker with Snake, which is really fun. But then Kojima pulls a fast one on everybody. We're this new guy, Raiden. Everyone's like, who the fuck is Raiden? Why am I this guy? Where is Solid Snake? It's crazy. And I gotta give Kojima props. It is such a bold move for him to just kind of pull a fast one on the player base and keep it secret. And I still don't like Raiden in this game nearly as much as Snake, but I gotta admit, he did grow on me a little bit more. Like, I used to hate Raiden MGS2, and I still think he's kind of a weenie, but he's a little better this time around.
Did I tell you you could move?
It's all right. He's not one of the bad guys. Don't go pointing that thing everywhere, kid.
Alright, so as expected, it's a Metal Gear game. It's all about stealth, espionage, action. You're sneaking around. You're choking dudes out. You're shooting them with trank guns to put them to sleep. You're doing all this crazy stuff to get through the environment. There's some really cool new additions to Metal Gear Solid 2, though, from a gameplay perspective, in my opinion. One is being able to go in first person now, so instead of having to do the top-down angles constantly for combat, you can now zoom in first person and pull out your gun and like have easier ADS stuff going on there. So it makes it much easier to shoot particular enemies in certain spots. And with this comes a whole new fun thing where you can hold up guards now and shake them down for their dog tags or collectibles to get unlocks, all that stuff. I really like that. I think it's a really good touch and a great new addition to the game. Another big addition to the game is the ability to now hang off walls. So like if you're on a catwalk kind of thing or some balconies, you could flip over with Raiden while guards are walking by, just giving you even more flexibility in the stealth scenarios. But yeah, I love taking people out of this game, like just sneaking up behind a guy and choking them out is so satisfying every time when they're going, so good. Speaking of choking dudes out, look at this weird clip I got. I gotta say though, the AI is way more intelligent this time around compared to MGS1. They can like track your wet footprints now. They're way more likely to see you. I think they can even hear Raiden's heartbeat and stuff like that. And man, I got fucked up a lot in this game. I was making a bunch of rookie mistakes and the guards are taking me out. They're so efficient. They can like counter some of your attacks like that. Man, they are a serious threat in this game. Oh yeah, guards will also follow you between like loading screens, so it's way harder to get away from them and they're way more dangerous, which I really like. I think that's awesome. You know, if you get seen by guards, it should be a really big deal and you should be able to just easily take everyone out. But they do give you a couple tools, I guess, to get through this a little bit easier, like being able to hide in lockers, so that's really nice. Also, when like an alarm goes off in this game, God, it still gives me a little bit of anxiety when I think about it. With such a big emphasis on stealth like past Metal Gear games, of course the box makes a return, but now there's cool boxes like the Zone of the Enders one. Really sweet. It's so goofy, but I really love using the boxes in these games and just kind of like hiding, and peeking out when guards walk by and just kind of laughing to myself like, it's so fun, man. It's like the kind of goofy Kojima humor that only he can do. I will say one really cool thing about being Raiden is you can do these gnarly cartwheels and you could just take out guards with them, and it's so satisfying, but they will counter you, so you gotta be careful. You can also do some cartwheels over some gaps in the game, which is really cool, and it kind of helps separate Raiden from Snake. You know, he is much more agile, I would say, than Snake, and I like that a lot.
Get away! Ah! What the hell happened?
Aside from your basic sneaking and like stealth action going on there was a couple interesting moments where the game switches up the gameplay. One being where you have to locate the president in a room with a bunch of people that are blindfolded. You have this like microphone you hold up and you can kind of hear his pacemaker. I think that's how it is. I thought that was a really cool little gameplay moment. There's the sniper moment with EE where you have to defend her as she's making her way across the big shell, and you can have Snake up there shooting, covering for you, which is kind of interesting, but goes on a little bit too long here. From a gameplay perspective, mechanically, I think the game is very strong in the kind of stuff you have the freedom to do, but from a design standpoint of guiding the player through the environment and all that, and the pacing, I don't feel it is as strong here as some of the other games. It really kind of felt like filler in a lot of it, and it was really taking its time, the amount of times I had to go back and forth. You know, this could be because I haven't played the game in a long time and I don't remember like the optimal path perhaps, but just going through it almost as like a newcomer once again, it felt like it was dragging its feet sometimes. It's like, dude, the segments with EE, her whole story with her and Otacon, very sad. Dude, the shit with Otacon and his stepmom is crazy. Kojima, once again, ahead of the curve, predicting things that people would be into, some fetishes people would be into. But yeah, escorting her through some of Big Shell, like the water part, I don't mind, but when you're kind of like dragging her, it reminded me of Eco, but even worse. I love Eco, by the way, but just kind of like, oh man, just pick her up or something like that. But still, even with some of my gripes here, it's still a solid experience overall. Control-wise, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do in this game, like being able to like go against the wall and sneak by and kind of like peek around it real quick and have Raiden pull out his gun and shoot, you know, peek around corners and stuff like that. But the controls are a little clunky and took me quite a bit to get used to them. Like, they are very complex controls, and I feel like if you haven't played a lot of old games like this, it may be very cumbersome. Like, I've played many old games and even old Metal Gear Solid games, and it still took me a while to get used to everything. But once you do, you're like, okay, there's a good amount of flexibility here. And I think that's just kind of some elements that Kojima was ahead of the times on.
Who goes there?
Okay, so when this game first came out in 2001, it was a PS2 showpiece. Visuals, the voice acting were all top-notch, next-level presentation. One thing that kind of emphasized it being a showpiece, and it kind of made it feel like a game from the future, was seeing the ice cubes melt in real time. That is such an insane Kojima thing that does not matter to anyone else but that man, and I respect the hell out of it. I remember shooting the bottles for the first time, and they get destroyed individually, and I thought that was so impressive, and it felt like the future. Since it's a Kojima game, you know there's some Gunnar elements in here. One is like being able to take photos of the girls in the posters in the game. You can even like get caught in the act of Snake pleasuring himself in the locker room and have a conversation with Otacon about it.
What do you think you're doing, Snake? You don't have enough to keep you busy? Try to remember the mission if you can.
It's also, of course, the part with Raiden flipping around naked. Oh yeah, at the end of the game, there are these dog tags you get, and on the dog tag, it says Gunnar. I'm just like, man, Kojima really is a genius and can predict the future. It's crazy. All right, let's talk about the settings in the game real quick. Metal Gear Solid games always have really rad environments, in my opinion, with Shadow Moses being my favorite, of course, and the jungles in the Soviet Union from 3. And with 2, we have the tanker, which kind of serves as the prologue with Snake, which I think is really rad. I thought it was a cool location to set the game and start it off with, a boat moving on the, I think it's the Hudson River? Yeah, just sneaking in there, you got your very claustrophobic environments, really rad. Big Shell, on the other hand, is a giant futuristic looking kind of like oil rig offshore cleanup facility that's divided up by a bunch of like hexagons and stuff like that. Really cool. I enjoy going through it. It's all connected by these long bridges. Looks very futuristic almost. We got some cool interiors here, like your mess hall / kitchen, storage and cargo rooms where there's boxes going around, little cargo belts. Really cool. There's a water filtration room, which I really liked. Some areas of the Big Shell are flooded also, and I enjoyed swimming through those. So pretty good environments overall. Not the top, but pretty decent. I think I also just kind of like the vibe of like being out in the ocean away from everything like that, and hearing the seagulls chirping and seeing all the water. Kind of peaceful to me. Let's talk about some of the characters. Man, Metal Gear Solid, the series, has some of the raddest video game characters. And the number one character, of course, is Solid Snake. He is so fucking sick. I love this guy so much. One of the greatest characters ever, in my opinion, in video games. Hands down. Now, Raiden, on the other hand, man, he had big shoes to fill. And maybe that's why I kind of look back on him negatively. Even though I liked him in 4, I always felt like in 2 he was whack. And I still think he's kind of whack, but he has to replace Snake, so that's like an impossible feat for me. But I did end up liking him more this time around. We got Otacon, of course. Still a little whiny, but he's Snake's boy, so, you know, he's my boy too, I guess. So, you know, shout out Otacon. He is fucking weird, though. We got Roy Campbell, the Colonel, of course, talking to Raiden. Classic. Rose. First of all, yes, their names Rose and Jack. Titanic reference right here. Kojima, yeah, he loves movies. You know that, all that kind of stuff. Her and Raiden's conversations are so fucking weird and unnecessary all the time. I'm like, what are we even doing here? What are we talking about? And I'm all for character development here. You know, I think it's important for the game to spend time fleshing out these characters' histories with each other. But sometimes I'm just like, what are we doing here, guys? Let's move this along. I am very bored, and your conversations feel so unnatural and awkward all the time.
I am Shalashaska, also called Revolver Ocelot.
On the villain side, we got the GOAT, Revolver Ocelot. He is so rad, man. I mean, he is like the perfect villain. Him and Snake are 2 of the most top tier characters. Snake, hero, top tier hero. Revolver Ocelot, top tier villain. And he is just fantastic in this game. Olga, she's whatever. You know, she's okay. She gets some moments to shine like that, which is cool, but she's, you know, I don't think about her that much, so whatever. Next we have Vamp. This guy is a freak. He's like a weird vampire, man. You know, cutting chests like that, licking blood, sucking the blood out of people. Big time freak show. But I like him. Fortune, on the other hand, she's okay. She doesn't really stand out to me that much. I think her like power of being able to like reflect bullets and not being able to die and her wanting to die is kind of a cool plot line. But other than that, there's sadly not much more to her, in my opinion.
It's time to start the party.
And of course, we got Fat Man, a big fat guy that skates around on roller skates and plants bombs and drinks wine out of a straw. This guy is a freak and a villain that only Kojima can make. He is so goofy, yet so awesome. All right, now we have Solidus Snake, who is kind of the big bad villain of the game, you know, the final boss for Raiden and all that. And when I compare him with every past MGS villain, I think he is my least favorite out of all the final villains in Metal Gear Solid. He's okay, and like the story with him and like the Sons of Liberty and all that kind of stuff is very interesting, but he just doesn't have that kind of gravitas I feel like other villains have, like the boss, Revolver Ocelot, stuff like that. But he's okay, but not nearly to the level as the other ones, in my opinion.
Still ticking, huh?
Unfortunately, haven't had no vacancies.
All right, from a boss fight perspective, Metal Gear Solid always has really cool bosses and enemies like that. Of course, Psycho Mantis, Foxhound, they're all awesome. Now there's Sniper Wolf, 3, The End, stuff like that always stick out in my mind. And sadly, I think the Dead Cell unit in this game, which is kind of like the enemy organization for a lot of these guys, is my least favorite out of almost all of them. Well, you know what? I would put them above the Beauty and the Beast from 4. I think these guys are cooler than that. In terms of like actual boss fights, I guess, the one with Olga on the cargo ship at the beginning is kind of boring. I don't know, you're just hiding behind a box and shooting her. The one with Fat Man is very entertaining, of course, because he's skating around and planting bombs. And I think it's kind of cool that you have to stop or defuse the bombs and kind of shoot them in between the act and all that kind of stuff. Pretty decent, good stuff. The one with Vamp in the water room is pretty cool. Like, he jumps in the pool of water and swims around. You could shoot him while he's in there. And then he jumps up on like the railings above you and kind of dashes around on it. Pretty sweet. The jet / plane with Solidus and Vamp is very Hindy to me from MGS1. And it's pretty cool, you know, they're flying around, they're shooting at you, they're trying to... It's cool when they get close to the pad you're on and try to like burn you with the jet's exhaust and all that kind of stuff. Pretty rad. The Metal Gear Raze fight near the end of the game is interesting to me. I think it's really cool fighting Metal Gears. Of course, I love that kind of shit. But as Raiden in this, I feel like you are just taking down Metal Gears way too fucking easy. Like, bringing down Rex at MGS1 felt like a really huge deal to me. The game really emphasized it and made it feel like it's a really special moment. But here, I feel like you're just kind of taking these out like it's no big drama. You know, it kind of really de-leveled the Metal Gears for me. I mean, the fight itself is pretty cool, like them jumping on the platform that you're on. But from like a power scaling point, I'm not a big fan of it. The fight with Solidus at the end on Federal Hall, I think it's kind of sweet actually though. It reminds me, you know, of course, like the one with Liquid on top of Metal Gear Rex. Not as cool like vibes wise, but it plays much better in my opinion. And slashing Solidus with your sword is really cool, so that's good shit.
Who are you?
To begin with, we're not what you'd call human.
Whenever I talk to someone about Metal Gear Solid 2, especially if it's their favorite, one of the strongest aspects of the game is its story, and near the end of the game is kind of where it all gets insane, and I can see why people love it so much. You got the Patriots, the shadow government kind of controlling the United States from the shadows, AI, Colonel, and Rose, and that's definitely something we're dealing with now, like AI becoming more prevalent in our lives today. Of course, it's Metal Gear, so there's conspiracy theories, controlling the narrative, curated information, all that kind of stuff. And one thing I did like was the AI kind of pointing out hypocrisy in humanity. I thought that was pretty interesting. So Kojima, of course, once again, ahead of the curve, predicting the future. So since I was replaying the game, I was talking to people about it, and they're telling me about a lot of the stuff that Kojima had to change for the game due to 9/11. One of the things is like Arsenal gear at the end, crashing into Manhattan, destroying buildings, including the World Trade Center, apparently. That was all cut from the game. Now it just kind of like transitions really quick to you on the building with Solidus at the end. They also removed some stuff like referring to terror attacks in New York City, I think, and they took away an American flag on top of the federal building, I believe, also. So yeah, some changes, and there's some drama going on there. I think Kojima was thinking about resigning because of all this stuff early on, but they figured out a way to make it work, and I'm happy they did. Okay, so for some final thoughts on the game, I'm very happy I revisited it. I think MGS2 is a great game. It did improve in my mind and went up, but it's still not above like 1 or 3 and stuff like that, but it's great. I really enjoyed it. It has some flaws for me still, like Raiden still is not as cool as Snake. I don't like playing as Raiden as much. The villains aren't nearly as cool as some of the other games. The environment and the kind of pacing of it all, decent, but not the best. Still, however, overall, it's a great game. I'm really happy I revisited it, and stuff like the story is still relevant even today. So if you haven't played Metal Gear Solid 2, I highly recommend it. Of course, play the other ones first, go in release order. It'll all feel, or all connect better, in my opinion. So do it that way.
I'll pick my own name and my own life. I'll find something worth passing on.
Okay, yeah, so that's it. Thank you all for watching so much. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys in the next episode. I hope you have a great day. Take care, everybody, and goodbye.